What would you say if a cop asked one simple question and your own answer got you arrested 5 minutes later? That happens all the time, and the disaster usually starts with you trying to sound helpful. One casual sentence can turn a warning into cuffs, a full search, and charges you never saw coming. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save you from talking yourself into a case. And tap like so you can find this video again on the day you actually need it. Here's what makes this so scary. The question usually sounds harmless. It sounds normal. It sounds like small talk. Maybe it's, where are you coming from? Maybe it's, you got anything illegal in the car? Maybe it's, mind if I take a quick look? But that simple question is not random. It is a test. It is a trap. And if you answer the wrong way, you can hand over your rights before you even know the stop changed. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the same pattern keeps showing up. First comes the casual voice, then comes the fishing, then comes the search, then comes the driver saying, I didn't know I had to say that. Let me show you exactly what separates the drivers who go home from the drivers who make the officer's job easy. You're about to learn the line that shuts down consent, the line that stops you from talking too much, the line that forces the stop back to its real purpose, and the line that keeps you safe if the officer gives a lawful order. Now let's talk about why this matters so much. Most people have no idea the stop can change this fast. You think it's about a taillight, a lane change, or rolling through a stop sign. But the second you start chatting, guessing, joking, or trying to explain too much, you create openings. You give them facts, you give them nervous behavior, you give them permission. Here's the reality. The stop starts with one reason, but officers are trained to notice anything that lets them dig deeper. Your voice shaking, your story changing, your hands moving fast. A weird answer to a simple question. Then, what was a traffic stop becomes an investigation. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They know most drivers talk because silence feels awkward. They know most drivers say yes because saying no feels rude. And that's exactly why you need a plan before the lights ever hit your mirror. The first thing you need is a line that kills the biggest mistake on the road. And that mistake is consent. If the officer asks to search your car, your bag, your trunk, or even says, you don't mind if I take a quick look, right? Your answer matters more than your tone, your outfit, or your record. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. Memorize that line. Say it calm, say it once, say it clearly, then stop talking. Why does this work? Because consent is one of the fastest ways police get around the normal rule against searching your stuff. If you say yes, or even act like yes, you make their job easy. You may think you have nothing to hide. That is not the point. The point is, you do not know what they think they found, what belongs to a passenger, what got left in your car months ago, or what your own words will sound like later in a report. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it creates a clean record. It shows you did not give up your rights. Bad way. Most drivers say, yeah, I guess that's fine. Then the officer searches the whole car and the driver can't take that yes back. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer has to rely on some other legal reason or drop the request. Watch what happens in body cam clips when people panic. They try to sound friendly. They say, I don't have anything, so sure. That one sentence opens everything. Glove box, backpack, center console, trunk. And once that search starts, every object turns into a story you now have to explain. Here's the reality. Even innocent stuff can look bad in the wrong moment. Cash looks suspicious. A pill bottle looks suspicious. A friend's jacket looks suspicious. A locked box looks suspicious. You do not help yourself by making the search easier. Now watch what happens when the driver stays calm and uses the right line. The whole energy changes. The officer may not like it. The officer may keep talking. The officer may try again with softer words, but your answer stays the same. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. This is 100% legal. You are not fighting. You are not resisting. You are just refusing permission. And this comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Schneckloth versus Bustamante, the court said consent can make a search legal even without a warrant or probable cause, as long as that consent was voluntary. Plain English? If you freely say yes, you just gave them a legal path. That is why this sentence matters so much. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection. No yelling, no speech, no debate, just no consent. Have you ever been asked this during a stop? Drop a comment below because I want to know how you answered in that moment. The second tactic is the one that stops you from becoming your own witness against yourself. After you hand over the basics, license, registration, and insurance, the fishing usually starts. Where are you headed? Who were you with? Why are you so nervous? Anything in the car I should know about? Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. Those questions are often not about being friendly. They are about getting you to talk until your words help them. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I choose to remain silent. Short, calm, clear. If they keep pushing, repeat it. Officer, I choose to remain silent. Do not freestyle. Do not fill the silence. Do not add jokes. Do not say, I mean, not really, or nothing crazy, or just a little weed from last week. People say wild things because pressure makes them talk. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and over the disaster starts when the driver keeps talking after the basic documents are already handed over. They think talking makes them look innocent. A lot of the time, it does the opposite. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm just coming from my cousin's place and my friend had a vape, but that's not mine. Then the officer hears extra facts and starts digging. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I choose to remain silent. Then the fishing stops giving them free material. Let me show you exactly why this works. Silence by itself is not always enough. Just sitting there awkwardly can still turn into a mess if you finally answer one question later. That is why your words matter. In Burgheis v. Tompkins, the Supreme Court said you need to make it clear that you are using your right to stay silent. Plain English. You cannot count on the officer reading your mind. You say it out loud. This is 100% legal. And no, this does not mean you refuse to identify yourself or hand over required documents during a lawful stop. You still give the basics you legally have to give. Then you stop helping the investigation grow. And yes, officers may act annoyed. They may say, why are you making this hard? They may say, if you did nothing wrong, why not answer? That line gets people every day. But innocence is not the test. Your words can be misunderstood even when you did nothing wrong. Your memory can be off. Your timeline can be messy. Your nervous joke can sound like a confession. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it prevents bad facts from being created in the first place. The less extra talking you do, the less there is to twist later. If this is already blowing your mind, drop a like right now, because the next part is where the stop either ends or quietly turns into something way worse. The third tactic is about the clock. Traffic stops are supposed to be about the traffic reason, not a side mission, not a long roadside interview, not endless waiting while somebody checks a few more things. Once the job of the stop is done, the stop is supposed to end. That is where your next line comes in. You look at the officer and say this, Officer, are we done with the traffic stop, or am I free to leave? Those exact words. Keep them simple. Keep them calm. Listen closely because this is critical. You do not use this line in the first 5 seconds while the officer is still asking for your license. You use it after the core work of the stop should be finishing. Ticket, warning, documents, return of your papers. That is the moment people mess up. They stand there talking. They keep answering. They wait around because they think they have to. And while they wait, the officer keeps probing. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, I can stay and answer a few things. Then the stop drags on and new suspicion gets built from the delay. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, are we done with the traffic stop, or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to either end it or clearly justify keeping them longer. Why is that so powerful? Because it forces the moment into the open. Either you are still being legally detained for the traffic matter, or you are free to go. That question makes the officer choose. It stops the gray zone where you feel stuck, but keep volunteering more time and more words. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Rodriguez v. United States, the court said, police cannot stretch a traffic stop longer than needed, just to chase unrelated stuff like a dog sniff, unless they have separate reason to suspect a crime. Plain English? They do not get extra time just because they feel curious. The mission of the stop has a limit. Let me show you exactly how drivers lose this moment. The officer gives back the license, says something casual, asks one more quick question. The driver thinks the hard part is over, so they relax. Then they say yes to chatting. Then yes to waiting. Then yes to a dog sniff. Then the whole thing snowballs. Former police officers have confirmed this works because most drivers do not know when the stop should end. Once you ask if you're free to leave, you put that issue right on the table. And if the officer says you're not free to leave, that matters too. Now the detention is clear. Now the reason matters. Now the record matters. You're not being rude. You're protecting the boundary of the stop with one clean sentence. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. Stay with me, because this next tactic is where people turn a bad stop into a dangerous stop without even realizing it. The fourth tactic is the one that keeps you safe if the officer gives a lawful order. A lot of people get this part wrong because they mix up rights with resistance. Those are not the same thing. If an officer lawfully orders you out of the car, arguing on the roadside is not the move. Your words protect you. Your body should stay calm. Here's exactly what you say. I will comply, but I do not consent to any searches. Say that while you move slowly and follow the order. That sentence does two jobs at once. First, it shows you are not resisting. Second, it keeps your legal position clear. You are complying with the order, not agreeing to a search. That difference is huge. Watch what happens when drivers do this wrong. They yank their hands around. They start debating law on the shoulder. They lock their elbows. They say, "You can't make me get out." Now the whole stop becomes about control, fear, and officer safety. Bad way. Most drivers say, "No, I'm not getting out." Then the stop gets tense fast and force becomes more likely. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I will comply, but I do not consent to any searches." Then they step out safely while keeping their rights clear. In Pennsylvania versus Mims, the Supreme Court said an officer can order a driver out of the car during a lawful traffic stop. Plain English? You usually do not win that argument on the roadside. You save your fight for court, not the shoulder. This is why smart drivers know the difference between verbal refusal and physical refusal. Verbal refusal protects you. Physical refusal creates danger. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the stop gets tense. Calm hands, slow movement, clear words, no sudden motions, no reaching, no speeches. And no matter how many times they repeat the request to search, your line stays the same. I do not consent to any searches. That record matters. Now, let's tie the law together so you know this is not internet fantasy. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Schneckloth v. Bustamante means your consent can make a search legal. In normal words, if you say yes, you may hand them the key to your own car in your own case. That is why your first line matters so much. Berghuis v. Tompkins says you need to clearly say you're staying silent. In normal words, just sitting there is not always enough. If you want the protection, say it plainly. I choose to remain silent. That is how you cut off the guessing game. Rodriguez v. United States says a traffic stop cannot be stretched longer than needed just to go hunting for other crimes without separate reason. In normal words, the stop has a job, and when that job is done, the stop should end. That is why asking if you are free to leave matters. And Pennsylvania v. Mims says an officer can order you out of the car during a lawful stop. In normal words, do not confuse refusal to consent with refusal to comply. Those